So now we're going to add some rounded shapes to this as well as a whole feature. Okay, so again, just like I did before, I'm in a metric drawing. I've already opened up a metric part. And I'm going to, again, start with the surface that I think has the best representation of the shape. And so two options, probably both about the same. I can make an L that goes like this and then all the way across to the front. Or I can make a rectangle on the bottom and then extrude this part up. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to flip a coin and let's do the bottom. Okay, so we'll create a sketch on the bottom surface. Now notice it spins it around and the word top is kind of going to the side. So if I was to click a horizontal constraint, it's a vertical line, and a vertical constraint's a horizontal line. So I'm going to rotate that. So now my vertical is vertical and horizontal is horizontal. One drawback to kind of throwing it on the top surface, sort of rotates it weird the other way. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So I'm going to draw this shape. And these little rounded edges on the corners, as well as this circle, I'm going to add those later. Those are features that are added to the part afterwards, and something that might want to be changed. Fillets, which are these roundovers, and this shape here and stuff like that. Those are kind of done afterwards. We might have to change those. And this is a hole here, and we're gonna we'll show you how to do that as all in one kind of command. All right, so I'm going to just draw that shape here. So I'm going to just basically, it's just going to be a rectangle with that little rectangle and then coming back around again. So grab my line command, we'll start over here. Again, making sure that everything is perpendicular, parallel, 90 degrees, all that good stuff. Kind of looks like the front end of a Indy racing car. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so here we go. So there's my shape. Okay. Couple of things. This is a symmetrical part. I'm going to show you in a different drawing how we could do that using a mirror function. There is also a symmetric constraint that we can use, but just kind of keep it simple. I am going to add a couple of constraints. I know that the stuff on this side is the same as the stuff on that side. So I'm going to use my equal constraint to make this line equal to that line and this line equal to that line, which is already there because I probably already have a horizontal or a vertical constraint when I did it. So, all right. So if I don't already have these relationships here, which I did when I drew it, because I kind of knew what I was doing, I went a little bit farther. We could add that. You're not going to get this. So I'm making sure that those things are equal. What that's going to do is when I move one, right? So see how they kind of move together. And that's going to just make it easier for me when I add my dimensions here. So let's throw this off to the side. We'll zoom in a little bit and we'll look at what we have. So again, just like before, overall dimensions. So this one's got 3 that are stacked together. And then 1 here that's kind of, right, we're looking across 25 up there. So 25 is the easy one. Going this way. Uh-oh. So that just happened. If you look, when I go back, this is telling me that I'm at 118 millimeters. And when I go down to 25, it's really small. So I'm going to kind of undo this. And I'm going to make my part a lot smaller here. So I'm going to kind of drag this down and just kind of make it a little bit smaller. Something I did there. Right. So we're going to just kind of make it like that. So now when I add my 25, right, it might still get a little bit goofy. So we're going to figure this out. This is all good. So we're going to see what happens if I get out of my dimension command and move them like that. Right. So we're okay here. So we're just going to move them like that. Okay. So we got 25 there. Now going from, right, we could add 17 here. This is 12. This is 6. Kind of doing it that way because I knew if I added 17 plus 12 plus 6, it was going to probably get out of whack again. I don't really like to do this when I dimension, but because normally we would probably measure like how big this part needs to be to fit where it's going to go, but that's okay. All right, so we've got that. Now I have, this is 3 inches, or sorry, 3 millimeters. Probably going to say inches a lot. And because I did that, The other side is 3, right? This in the middle has to be 19. So I get that kind of error again. I'll just hit cancel, right? If this is 25, this is 3, this is 3, then 19 is what's left. So everything's turned black. I'm going to finish my sketch. Again, I didn't round over these corners, but we'll do those later. So extrude this up, look for the thickness. The thickness is over here, and it's 5 millimeters. We'll hit OK. Okay, so now I'm going to add the back coming up. I could add a rectangle on this surface and go up, round it over. I could spin this around to the back and draw the shape. All right, I think the easiest thing probably for me to do is put a sketch on the top, draw a rectangle like this, and then D for dimension gives me that thickness of 5. Okay, so now when I extrude this up, it tells me that the entire thing is 18. So here's kind of the one issue with doing it this way. I have to know that I already have 5 millimeters down here. So 18 up is going to be 18 minus 5, right? Because I'm already 5 millimeters and I'm going 18 more, all right? I'll just go back real quick and show you on the back side. Right? If I spin this around and create a sketch here, I can draw my rectangle, use that coincident constraint, and then this is 18 from the bottom. Maybe a little easier, but you got to add that extra constraint in there, right? Doesn't really matter how we do it. Finish our sketch, extrude, and this is going to go 5 millimeters that way. It wants to cut it. We don't want it to cut it, so we're going to just add that in like that, all right? So both things, I ended up in the same spot. 2 different ways to do it, okay? So now I'm going to put a sketch on the front, and I'm going to add this here. So this is like a rectangle with 2 circles on the end, which is called a slot. So in my rectangle command, I've got a bunch of options, and I've got 3 different slots. So I have center to center, overall, and center point. So if I look at it, I notice that there is a measurement between the 2 circles. So that is a center to center slot. And the way it's drawn is you click and draw the line that goes across, and then you give it thickness. It's kind of cool, right? And it adds all those constraints and a whole bunch of stuff I don't have to do. All right. If I was to make it with a rectangle and circles, I'd have to do a lot of lining up. So that's pretty cool. So now I'm going to dimension. So between the center points is 15. That's the length of this line. And then that line coming across is 5 millimeters down. And it tells me that there is 2 radius of 3. Okay, so there are 2 of them, and they have a radius of 3. Okay, so now I'm missing something here because it's still purple on the edges. So I got to look and see, what am I missing? There are no other dimensions on here. So what must be happening here is this is centered. Okay, so I got to figure out a way to center this. Well, when I create the slot, I get a center point on that slot. So I can use a vertical constraint to take the midpoint of this line and make it vertical to that. So they now line up with each other. This is right in the middle, and everything is black. If I was to kind of enlarge this or do something different, this would stay in the middle. All right, so I'll finish my sketch, extrude. We're going to cut it all the way through. And click OK. All right. Last feature on here is the hole. So I'm going to create a sketch here. And this has got a couple of circles in it, so we'd be tempted to make a couple of circles. But this is a standard type of a hole that Inventor will kind of do for us. So I'm going to just create a point and put it right here. And same thing. They've got a 12 millimeter from the front edge, nothing going this way, so it's in the middle. So just like I did before, we'll give the measurement that they have. There is no measurement this way, so we'll go horizontal now. Take that point, find the center point or the midpoint of that line, and drop it right there. And finish my sketch. Okay, so I've got a point there. When I click on my hole command, it's automatically going to select that point. All right, and I was playing around with this earlier, so I got some different measurements in there. So we're going to look at that. So normally a hole is going to be called out slightly different, but we can use what they give us here. We've got a diameter of 8 for the big one, diameter of 5 for the small one, a height of 2, which is between the top circle and the bottom circle. Right. And so depending on what you've used, this is a simple hole that has a counterbore. Right? So a counterbore kind of looks, if you were to imagine what this looked like on the inside, it's got a larger diameter and a smaller diameter. Counterbores are used to hold bolts, right? So if this was going to bolt on, the counterbore would be sized so that the bolt head would maybe sit flush to the surface. Okay, we can thread it, we can make them clearance, we can do a spot face hole, which is similar to a counterbore, but a little different. We can also do countersink, which gives it a little bit of an angle to it, right? So our counterbore, the through all or a termination, right, is the bottom hole. So you can kind of see what's happening here. So when I have a termination point, it's whether that's where that's cutting. So this is going to go all the way through because they only give me the one depth, and trust me on this, goes all the way. So the top diameter is 8. It is 2 thick, and then the smaller diameter is 5. So if we look at what's happening here, when we go through and we do that, we click OK. That creates that double hole for us. So that's cool. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is add the fillet. So we have the roundovers here. We've got this fillet here, which gives us some structural support. We got the roundovers there. So the fillet command is going to come up. We've got a couple different options. Nothing fancy with this one. So the first thing we're going to do is we'll do these two. So this says 2 at a radius of 5. So it's two things that look the same. We'll set this to 5. And then we'll grab that edge and that edge. We'll hit OK. Go back to fillet. We'll change it to 4. That edge and that edge. That rounds those over. We'll click OK. And then we have this last one, which is the fillet here, which is a radius of 2. Change that to 2. Click back on that. And then add that right there. And click OK. And that is that part. So this one, let me go back, is, I got too many open here in this folder. There it is. There's a whole bunch of them. 266. So we'll go to File, Save. All right, we'll say 3D-266.